Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today, we're going to do a review of Mortal Kombat. Now, I saw this movie on Friday night. I took a day to kind of let it gestate. And kind of come to my final consensus on it. And my final consensus on it is pretty much kind of the same one as when I watched it. But we'll get to that at the end. I want to kind of go through a lot of the aspects of this movie because I really, really liked the trailer for this movie. There was some social stuff that came out, especially from the director, that I didn't like. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that bleeds into the project. So I want to see it for myself. And I was at least thankfully surprised that none of that stuff bled into the project. The project does not have any kind of like social messages and crap like that. It's just a Mortal Kombat movie, which is exactly what I wanted. Um, but let's examine the movie itself. Now, the top thing you're looking for in a Mortal Kombat film is the actual combat, is the fighters actually fighting and killing each other. And I will say this movie has a body count. It's not outrageously huge, but it is a decent sized body count. There's at least 5 or 6 characters that bite the dust here. Now, some of them are cannon fodder characters. And some of them are probably going to come back in the next film because they kind of allude to that. So I'll get to that at the next point. But um, as for the actual combat, the combat, it varies a little bit. Sometimes I feel like the fights are a little too fast, and sometimes they are perfect. Sub-Zero versus Scorpion is really, 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 really good. They actually get to fight 2 times during the film. Once as their ninja selves and once as their old feudal Japanese selves, and it's really, really interesting both times because they're fights that definitely mirror one another, and they're 2 opponents that definitely know a lot about each other. Um, I will say this: it relates a little bit to Scorpion. Is they finally acknowledge that a kunai is a fucking gardening tool. And it's not an actual weapon that's supposed to be used like that. So I did think that was kind of funny because I think it's the first movie about ninjas that actually acknowledged that. But outside of that, because it's just kind of a little thing, I like the combat styles. I like the way they do it. The fighting and more specifically the fatalities. Some of them are ripped directly out of the games, and it's amazing to see that shit put to screen and have like the actual stuff you see in the video game happen to characters in this movie, because it just adds to it. There is a little bit of kind of some plot stuff that gets bled in there, but in terms of the action itself, the action is really, really good. Like I said, the only problem I kind of have is that some of the fights were a little too quick, and they also gave away a lot of the fatalities in the trailer, which I don't like. They gave away 3 fatalities, I believe, in the trailer, and there's probably a total of like 5 or 6 in the film. So that's unfortunate, but at the same time, I still enjoyed them. That's more the advertising department's fault. I don't blame the movie for that. Um, Moving on to the cast and the acting and the story, which is very close second to the combat in a Mortal Kombat film. And the thing with the story is, if you're going into it looking for 100% lore accurate shit from either of the 2 iterations of Mortal Kombat, the original or Mortal Kombat 9 through 11 or 12, whatever it is now, it's not the same. It's not even the same as the first movie, really. They do a little thing because they have they've seen it they have it in the trailer, so there's going to be a little bit of a minor spoiler here. The dragon marking that they have in the trailer has something to do with their superhuman abilities. So the dragon marking, for whatever reason, allows them to unlock this stuff they call arcana, and basically that gives them certain abilities that match up to what they would have in the game. So it's a roundabout way of and a kind of a simpler and more streamlined way of getting to the point where we have the same abilities that we see in the games. So because we're getting to the end result with that, I'm willing to give it a pass, even though it is a little bit less interesting than the ways we go about getting the stuff in the games. Now going down also to the actual narrative itself. Very simple narrative, extremely simple narrative. It works perfectly, and it just facilitates the combat, which is what it's supposed to do. I do like the duality. I do like the story of Scorpion and Sub-Zero because that's really the center point of this movie. Even though the character Cole Young is supposed to be our protagonist, he's wound into that. that narrative as well, but it's really Sub-Zero and Scorpion. It is their story going through, and Mortal Kombat is kind of the facilitator of that story. Um, Now, to go to the individual characters, I love Sub-Zero and I love Scorpion. Even though Scorpion is not in the movie for a shit ton of time, Sub-Zero has a lot more screen time. I like both of them, and I like the way they play and act the characters. I think it's very, very good both ways. Looking at Sonya Blade and Jax were both relatively good. Kano stole the show. I will readily say that Kano stole the show. I loved Kano in this movie. Josh Lawson, who plays him, did an amazing job because Kano in this movie is the comic relief. And he does a very good job of it because everybody around him is the straight man for the most part. Every single person that is around him in this film plays everything like dead serious. And Kano is just chewing scenery, and I love it. He's a very good contrast to the seriousness of everything else that's going on around him. You have Raiden. They did a little bit of a different thing with Raiden in this. Raiden is less of a kind of I don't want to say dishonorable god. He's an honorable god in the games. The lightning god and all that stuff. But in this, he's kind of like grumpy old man god, which it works because he's like fed up with bullshit basically. He's like, if you can't activate your powers, then you're just useless to us. So get the fuck out. That's kind of one of those things. So I like the way that they portrayed him, even though it is a little bit different from the games. You had Shang Tsung, who's just kind of there. He has a few good moments. Liu Kang and Kung Lao are both really good, especially Kung Lao. I loved Kung Lao in this movie. He has some of the best fighting moments, too. Liu Kang was really good. That's Ludi Lin, for a lot of people that don't remember him. And then you also have, a few kind of other ones. You have General Raiko, you have Natara, you have Melina, and a lot of those characters are just kind of there to be in the movie. They don't really flesh them out all that much. But and also you also have Goro in there as well. Even though again, I don't think he even has a speaking line for most of the movie. But it is good to kind of see that type of shit. At least because it's showing that they're putting those characters out there, and those characters are going to be there for a sequel. And I'm going to get to that too, because there are a lot of characters that quote unquote die in this movie, and some of them are probably going to come back. And they allude to some of them coming back probably. Now we get to the big one. We get to Cole Young, who's our main character, who's played by Louis Tan. Cole Young sucks. I will say this forthright. He's a crappy character. His character matches his name, and that's not a good thing when you have the most generic fighter name ever. Cole Young he's literally there as both a bland and tasteless protagonist and a plot MacGuffin to basically get one of the legacy characters back in the movie. That's the only reason why he exists in this film, and I really wished they had fleshed him out more, because I like the aspect of the character. I like the way that I like the backstory of the character of why he's involved in Mortal Kombat, not just because of the dragon tattoo or the dragon marking, but because his entwinement with things that are involved in the Mortal Kombat world. I like the way that they put him in. The problem is they didn't write a character to go with that awesome concept. They just wrote a cardboard cutout that they stuck in there to beat the crap out of people every once in a while. And that's the other thing is, and again, this will be a little spoiler, but obviously I explained about the dragon marking. So Cole Young's power is way, way, way too OP. His power is way overpowered. So a lot of the other characters have their powers from the games, which kind of balance out enough. They still have vulnerabilities and shit like that, but at the same time, they're still pretty good. They kind of balance each other out to an extent. Cole Young's power is he has these wrappings that go around his body, which they kind of allude to a little bit at the beginning of the film with like the hand wrapping scene, which I think a lot of people have also seen from the trailers. When he does that, and it goes around his body, it's like a suit of armor, so it like absorbs everything. So when he gets punched, it like lights up, it glows red and like absorbs the kinetic energy. There's a point where it looks like he can return the kinetic energy to a target, and it also gives him some form of like maybe not. I don't know about superhuman strength, maybe. at least to an extent. Um, but I think that's, and then on top of that, they give him a set of bladed tonfa, which means he can't be hurt, or he can't be hurt seriously with like a body blow, and he also could slice your head off and stab you. So it's like, okay, you just made him more OP than every other character in this movie. Like that's stupid. Why did you do that? Like Sub-Zero's powers are kind of broken. I will admit that. Sub-Zero is kind of OP, but they make him out to be that way. You know, he's the main bad guy of the movie, really, and he's the guy that you kind of build up to fight. So, okay, I understand why he's OP, but at the same time, Cole Young is not a character that he went from an okay fighter. He was a washed up MMA fighter or something. He went from that to armored tonfa wearing, like, just murks people. And although it is cool to see him do it, it doesn't really work all that well from a narrative perspective. Now, what I think would have been a great idea, or a better idea, is if you took his concept, but you just removed the offensive capabilities. So, like, all right, so he's an MMA fighter. It shows at the beginning of the movie that he has these MMA matches, and he's more of he gets these guys on the ground and, like, leg locks and stuff like that, and does all this stuff and, like, wrestling moves, which really isn't a huge thing in Mortal Kombat. A lot of it is striking, and some of it is grappling and stuff, but uh, if they had gone with that route and said, okay, we're going to give him the suit of armor, but we're not going to give him the tonfas. We're going to take those away, and we're going to have him use his fists and his strength and his wrestling prowess to do stuff, because he does do stuff like that when he first gets the suit before he figures out that he has the death tonfas. And I think it would have been better to keep it like that, because it would have made him a bit more in line with the rest of the characters, and it would have been more in line with his background. So I think that they made a mistake doing that, and I think they made a mistake in writing that character. Like, you could have literally replaced him with probably 4 or 5 other different characters, or just written him better and made his name less generic and shitty. So, and I know I sound like I'm harping on the movie, but I'm really more or less just harping on that one character. Like, I don't give a shit about Cole Young. I give a shit about everybody else in the movie, but I don't care about him. And they do have some stingers, and not, I shouldn't say stingers, but they do have some Easter eggs in this for people that are fans of other characters. They have some alludings of other characters. There's a Baraka Easter egg. There's Shao Kahn. There's Kitana. There's Nightwolf. There's Johnny Cage, who's the big one at the end. I kind of gave that away. Sorry. But regardless, there's a lot of alluding to other characters that they're going to bring in for the next movie. And like I said, they're probably also going to bring back some of the characters that were killed off in this movie. So that's just kind of my feelings about the Mortal Kombat movie, though. I really liked it. I gave it a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. Have you watched it? Have you not watched it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What did you like about it? And what didn't you like about it? Put your thoughts in the comments below. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe. And remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?